Welcome back to Advus After Hours, a podcast focused on the intersection of innovation, finance, and community. Today, we have the pleasure of sitting down with Thomas Ward, local restaurateur that many of you already know from Floyd's over in the Mills District. Today, we actually get to take the show on the road to the latest piece of his restaurant empire called Pigzza. So with that, let's take the show on the road and we'll see you on the other side.
What got you to do a podcast? Because we've tried to develop ours for the past 4 years, and yours is phenomenal. So
Thank you.
What got you doing that?
There's no camaraderie in the restaurant business here. I'm gonna put it out there. Like, I feel that people in the restaurant business are very protective and don't want to share information. And I am pretty transparent. I mean, you could ask any of my staff. I'll put it out there. I don't care. Like, you got to know the financials. I'm not scared of what people are getting paid. Like, I just want you to know the information and you make the decision if you want to be with the company or not. We were trying to figure out ways to get people involved with the brand and starting to understand the backstory. So, because people, I think, relate more to the person than the brand itself.
Absolutely.
For many years, I was criticized that I brought in too much of my own into the social media and into the brand. So it's like everybody that used to talk to me is like, so what happens when you open more restaurants and you're not there? And I'm like, they're gonna keep running. It doesn't really matter, but there has to be some sort of personality behind the brand to give it a little bit of warmth, a little bit of understanding, like and to know that you're talking to a live person, not to some company out of Vegas that just decided to come to Orlando. So
yeah. Companies are people.
Companies are people, but some people stay behind the company name, and they're very careful about putting out information. It just depends what kind of entrepreneur or what kind of business person you are. Like, if you want to put your information out there, I think it's the best, because people then they make a decision based on if they want to support you or they don't want to support you.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think more than anything in the restaurant business, you have to relate to people that you see on a daily basis. Like, it's just, I see a lot of customers or guests that come into the restaurant. I've formed a lot of, connections in that way. And then when I move forward, I'm able to, do business easier.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And a lot of people that have come to the podcast want to share their story. They want to share how they came up. They want to tell you what's up. They want to tell you the mistakes they've made. And I'm all about that, man.
Even though the industry is very tough to break into, you mentioned you have had some good mentors along the way as well, specifically in Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, Darden being here, it's a very, very easy pick of the litter to go after somebody to meet them, right? And I have. You have to go, you have to go after it, though. Like, you have to, hey, do you know this person? Can you put me in contact with them? Just to ask them questions. I've met some really interesting people, but you have to think that the deal is totally different, right? What Darden sees and how they do a deal is a totally different deal than I would or anybody that's small, right? Recently, the Ruth Chris deal. Like, I know the guy that did the deal. I've congratulated him. I haven't talked about the deal, but I mean, you're thinking about it and you're going, whoa, $750 million, for a 200 restaurant chain. What do they see? And it's a lot of people not understanding the background of it. Like, when Darden goes in and buys a company, they're already making money because their food cost automatically goes down 3 points because just of the sheer volume that they buy. They buy $6 billion worth of food.
Yeah.
Their deals are probably like no other. I mean, better than supermarket businesses, probably the Publix. So when you go and buy a company and you can lower the food cost by 3 points and then start making, let's close the office here. Let's start saving. You make your money back.
They're buying brands.
They're buying brands and they'll develop it, and they need to show growth. They're in the stock market. People want to see growth. They want to see what's next. It's so it's a different business. That's why I never want to take my business public, because then you live for the investor.
Exactly.
Right. And you're not living for your guest or your employees. And I think that's part of the reason that I think those companies go wild, but then, they go through hard times. Chipotle, for example, it's a great company. I mean, they were killing it. They were doing so well financially, and all of a sudden you get a health scare, and we thought that's the end of them. And now, I don't know if you've seen it lately, but they're going wild, man. Wild.
That's a great example. Great example.
Wild. I mean, America forgives real quick, right? And the pace, we talk about social media. The pace of it is so fast that something happens today, by tomorrow you might have forgotten.
What's it like, and how do you maintain the identity of your brand, but doing different concepts throughout the city? Because you have Pig Floyd's, now we're sitting in Pigzza, which you guys just opened up this year. How do you maintain that identity?
Well, the issue with the restaurant business is, and it's kind of repetitive, right? So when you see a concept, you develop the concept, and then let's multiply it and let's sell it. Whenever you get to 25 stores, you bring in venture capital. Venture capital takes you to 50, and then you go for a big dog to buy the company, and everybody makes money. And that's the repetitive, like, they do it all the time. Right. They do it with banks. You've seen it with banks. You just want to be bought out and move on. And I always had that idea, but during COVID, I saw that there was a difficulty in traveling outside of Orlando and expanding your concept with operations. And I think a lot of people don't think about operations in our business. They think, well, we'll keep expanding and we'll figure it out. No, it doesn't work that way. Operations are so important. So when you have a restaurant that's like, say, in St. Pete, and you have one unit, to go to St. Pete and deal with that one unit is very tough. So I said, okay, I could grow Pig Floyd's into 50 units, but how do I do it where I'm not going into a town and I'm building one, and it's going to cost me a ton of money management wise to keep running this? So I said, I call it a traveling circus. Okay. And I said, if I can build 5 concepts all together, travel together, and support each other, we'll have financial efficiency and management efficiency, because I can hire a guy or a girl to run that town, and we have 5 units that are producing desserts for the other ones. Like, I have a dessert concept called Sugar Puppy that'll produce all the desserts for all the restaurants. I have Pig Floyd's that could do smoked meats for our breakfast concept, for Pigzza, all that. So when you work with that, then you build volume, and at the same time, you build efficiency.
What's kind of the steps practically to getting something like this off the ground?
Well, I think the toughest thing for people, and I have people come to me, a couple of weeks ago, I had a couple of people that are in the industry asking me for advice. And one of them, I told them to get out of the business that day. Like, I think you should just shut down right now and go get a job. Like,
I think that's common.
It is. It's unfortunate, but in the restaurant industry, a lot of friends tell you that you have a great recipe to cook and that you should open a restaurant because your food is great. And what you have to realize is not even about the food, it's about the people. And you have to learn how to deal with the people. And, the name of the game becomes trying to build a culture that's good, but in a very hard industry. And I don't think people realize that it's more a people game than it is about the food. And if you could get to that and try to figure out how to build that right culture and how to build that team, you'll be able to be successful. But people go in the restaurant industry, they manage their own restaurant, they work the restaurant, then they start getting tired of doing the grind every day, and they figure this shit sucks.
Yeah.
Being in a restaurant 24 hours a day, doing it yourself is not as easy as building a company, and building a culture and building staff and empowering people. I used to own a food truck. I used to have it to do it every day. I would tell you that that's probably the hardest time that I've ever been in the restaurant business. I had to go to buy food every day, to prep food every day, to clean the truck, to go to the event, close the truck, go home. I mean, by the time that I was done, it was 12 o'clock at night. I was dead tired. I could do it because I was younger, but now, no.
Yeah.
No, man. Like, it's just it's so much easier to build a company and to empower people to be doing their job and developing. Like, my managers right now, they do such an awesome job in in taking the brands forward, and they live it, and I live it with them, but I'm not in here 24 hours a day.
Yeah. So tell us about this brand, because Pigzza just opened up this year. I know a lot of people who listen to this will have probably heard of it, but this might be their first like real exposure. So let's hear about what you got going on here.
So I decided that during this building this traveling circus, we had to figure out what had frequency. When you look in the industry, you always look at frequency, and frequency is breakfast, which has a 2 to 3 time frequency a week. Italian has a 1 a week frequency. Coffee has a daily frequency.
Yep.
Barbecue once a month. At the end of the day, when you build your company, you're just trying to figure out which concept is the one that's just going to take off and I can develop and multiply, right? By the looks of it, if we can figure out the labor here and we can figure out our food costs in the next couple of months, this will be ready to expand in a year. You know what I mean? And I think this has the capacity to go into different cities and do great sales.
Describe what they can expect when they come into the restaurant if they haven't yet.
What I was looking for was to change something in the pizza business, because I feel like there's very traditional feelings in that business, and we can see it. Like some of our dishes are not very traditional dishes, and they're not translating.
I saw that there's oysters on one, right?
We took oyster. That pizza, we took it off.
Okay,
we took the oysters off. The pastas, people want sauce, like saucy pastas, very traditional. They're like, oh, I don't understand this dish. I'm like, it's a typical ragu, just not the way that Americans view Italian, right? So you have to adjust, but what we've trying to do is basically build something that's different in the pizza industry. I have this ongoing joke that, what's the pizzeria that's in Winter Park? I forget. Not Lazy Moon. Mellow Mushroom, right? Yep. Mellow Mushroom has 150 units. It's been around forever. And it's a cool spot, but they haven't been able to like really take the brand and develop it into current standards. With the current aesthetics, with what people are looking for now, that they're looking for a mix of things. And so I went after the Mellow Mushroom thing and I said, that's our main competitor. Let's focus on trying to compete with them and nobody else. Like, that's what I said. We're just going to focus on Mellow. So shout out to Mellow Mushroom if you guys want to come visit and buy me.
I was going to say, we can tag them in this.
Yeah. You can buy me. I don't care. Like, just pay me. With Pigzza, I wanted an easy name that you could translate, right? I will tell you, I got heavy critique on the name. Heavy. I
love it.
I got a guy from Darden telling me he did not understand it. It wasn't going to work. And I had 3 agencies tell me, you shouldn't name it Pigzza because it has pig in the name and people aren't going to get it. And I was like, no, we're just doing it. Who gives a fuck? Like, it's a name. It's a 1-word name. People are going to remember it. It perfectly describes what we're doing. If you don't get it from that, then I don't know what else to tell you.
I'm not a marketing guy, but like as a consumer, I love it.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy. And it relates to what you're doing as you're mixing and massing product. We bring the brisket from Pig Floyd's. We do the pork from Pig Floyd's. And we'll be doing more stuff that's like compared to Pig Floyd's. Like the butter chicken pizza, we'll probably put a butter chicken pizza on it, on the menu and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's a very long way of telling you what Pigzza really was. And yesterday we had today's Friday. Wednesday we had our meetings of what did we mess up and what did we do right in opening. And a lot of people in my management staff were just saying, we didn't have the whole concept decided when we opened. Like, we put a lot of stuff on the menu and we tried to figure out what would work. So it wasn't a clear concept. Like, what is it?
Right.
We just went out there, put some stuff that I think would work, and all of my management staff, and then it worked. You have to fine tune things, and not all concepts have to come out the gate like, oh, this is what it is, and this is the box, and this is the thing. It's just, you just have to figure out your way. As long as you have sales, it's good.
Right. We've got a colleague who talks about this exact concept all the time. He talks about building the plane while you're flying already.
Yeah.
And that's basically what you're talking about right now.
It sucks though, because when you build a plane while you're flying, it's a hard time. Like it's harder.
Right.
But you tend to understand really quick if you're able to move and adjust. Like it's a very cool process to me, at least. Maybe to not other people. It's a lot of stress to other people. But to me, it's like, okay, this didn't work. Scrap it. Like, let's do another menu item and let's try that and see if that works. Like, let's get the feedback. I'm a huge feedback monster. Like, I want to see it all in every channel. I don't care if you write a bad review, good review, whatever. I want to see it.
So how's it been operating in the Yelp era where people just get online and can trash you? How's that?
Fun.
you embrace it?
I've embraced it. Yeah. I embraced it from the beginning when we had Pig Floyd's. I would answer every review. If I was at dinner, I would look at the phone, and if it's something that we fucked up, I would give them my cell phone number, and I would get out of the restaurant and go take them food. Like that, I was so anal about it that now you see the fruits of the labor 8 years later when they name us, best barbecue on Yelp and stuff like that. We have, I think, 2,400 reviews at Pig Floyd's. For a little restaurant like that, that's pretty impressive.
Well, let's talk about that Yelp rating, because you guys got ranked nationally.
Yeah,
amongst
I know,
barbecue spots. Let's touch on that. I don't want to gloss over that.
I was like, what the hell? Who the f- did this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why, because we really embraced Yelp. I never spent a dime with them. They called me every week. They still call me every week for Pigzza now, and I'd never spent a dime with any of them. I've never paid any like advertising or anything like that. Like, I don't think in this business, unless you're giving a coupon away, you're gonna see that return on investment, right? So what we focus on, and what I tell all my management staff and people, is let's focus on our four walls. Let's spend money in our four walls. Like, if we're spending, advertising dollars outside and a TV, ad or whatever, we're never going to see who's coming from that TV ad. But if we spend it here in the store and we give people food to try, and all of a sudden you see them back next week, now you see that correlation between the guests and you. I'm big against third-party deliveries.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, they don't like me. Well, they like me. They want to give me a check, but I don't want the check.
Why? Because the quality of food declines, or just margins get smaller, or
you're sharing your guests.
Yeah.
Right. So now it becomes their guests, and the Ubers of the world. They offer you a big check. They tell you that your percentage is going to go down, and all of a sudden, the customer wants to order Pig Floyd's. They order Pig Floyd's, and we shut it down because we have too much volume. They're going to move that customer to another restaurant.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Right? They're going to advertise the shit out of just, hey, go eat here instead of Pig Floyd's. I don't know. I just think you lose the focus in what you're doing. And I'm very scared about the food quality leaving that building with somebody that's not the guest.
So you're ranked nationally and in the state #1 by Yelp, which isn't like a small random publication. What differentiates you all from the rest of the barbecue spots in Orlando, in Florida, and in the nation?
I think the play and the fact that we did something different and sides was a huge thing. Doing rice and beans with barbecue, that's not the usual. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you, it's just the expectation is traditional. The expectation is is they want to see cornbread, they want to see mac and cheese, they want to see collard greens, they want to see all these things, and we did the opposite. And at the same time, marketing wise, we differentiated ourselves from Four Rivers. I'll call it out. I don't care. John knows it. John went one way, I went the other way. I went the opposite way. And I think it worked for us. I mean, obviously we're only one store in, he's got 20, but I just think the way that we went about it with a smaller location, tighter footprint, and controlling those things was better for us. Who knows what time will tell what's better or what's worse. But I just think real estate wise, if you do smaller and you focus on doing something different, I think you could differentiate yourself in the market. The thing is, like, what hasn't been invented, Right. Like I've probably seen maybe 1 or 2 places in the United States doing smoked meats on pizza and stuff like that. But I haven't been all over the United States.
I was listening in preparation for this, how you all targeted females by offering tacos, because you said a lot of times they're the one making decisions on where to eat. And I look back and I'm like, every time we go to Mills, my wife wants to go to Pig Floyd's to get the tacos. I'm like, damn, they nailed it.
It's funny. I grew up with 4 sisters. Okay. And when you think about it, who makes the decision is your woman.
100%.
Right. In my world, at least.
No, mine as well.
It is in your
Right.
world, whatever.
Right.
But so when we were coming up with the concept, barbecue at that time wasn't considered sexy as it is now. Barbecue is really sexy now. I don't know where it changed or where, but it was typically like a male, I would say more of a male thing. Like it's heavy, it's a lot of meat, it's a lot of, things that maybe we like to eat as guys. But then we try to figure out, how do we bring in the others, like the women factor into this by just bringing something lighter. And then the sides, everybody eats rice and beans, everybody eats fried yuca, like they like it. We said tacos, but the issue with tacos is, then are we going to do these old boring tacos that bring in just the regular meat that we do in the house and just throw a couple things and just make it cool? No, let's do tacos that are even different to what we do or what we have in flavor profile with traditional barbecue. So when we did that, it was a hit.
Beck, what's the collaboration like, hiring chefs for these different restaurants and kind of making these dishes come to life and your vision come to life?
You should ask Jason. I mean, Jason's been with me since the food truck days. So we've had a very interesting relationship because I'm not a chef, but I act like one.
Right.
I slept at a Holiday Inn last night, and I guess you could call me a chef. I study probably more than him. Like with pizza, I drove him nuts. I think it got to a point where I was like, and he's probably out there.
You keep looking at your
face. Yeah, he's making a face. But we tried like 9 different flours, 17 tomatoes, like 20 different iterations, this cheese, that cheese, like, and I watched YouTube videos of, digestibility and all, and it got to a point where one day he goes like, just shut up. Like, yeah, we need to stop this.
Yeah, you're going deep on it. He's like, I know how to make the pizza.
Yeah, and this is like analysis by paralysis, right? You see so much information that you're like, I don't know what's going to be the best. He brought in a dough one day, and I said, if we sell this dough, we'll go out of business. And I think we got into a little bit of a tiff at that point. Like, and maybe like a couple of days later, he brought in a sourdough, and I go, now we're talking. Like, this is different. This is not the norm. Because I think a lot of people, when they go out and open a restaurant, they just find the normal products that you can find and just do the same shit. And yeah, you doctor it up a little bit and supposedly it's different. No, I want it to, like, even if it's more tedious, I want something that's totally different and that nobody's doing. Like Bianco and Napoli tomatoes weren't being brought to Orlando before we did. We brought this tomato that's organic from California that cost $20 more a case. And now all of a sudden, like, I've been told my supplier, we have 3 other people that want to buy the same tomato. Like, so, it's the same thing with other concepts, like with sushi, fish. Somebody's bringing these expensive fish and it's translating, and then other restaurants want to buy that expensive fish.
I heard you touched on this in another podcast you did, but about the most important role in the kitchen,
the dishwasher.
In your mind, the dishwasher. Talk on that a little bit, because I thought that was interesting.
I'll give you the perfect example. We're not known for mac and cheese at Pig Floyd's. We did it. I really did it because it got to the point during COVID that people kept asking for mac and cheese and catering, and we didn't have it. So we were losing some catering due to the fact that we didn't have the traditional items. So we tried doing like 8 different recipes for mac and cheese, and how is it going to hold? How are we going to do it? And at the end of the day, we decided to go with a product that's already made. It comes pre-made. You heat it up and you put it out there. It's the most consistent product in the market, and whoever has a different idea of that, I will fight them to the end, because In this game, it's consistency, right? So we brought in a white cheddar mac and cheese that's expensive, that's great flavor. We put it out. The dishwasher starts telling me that the dishes are coming, half empty. They're not eating the whole thing. I keep a lookout. I keep talking to different dishwashers, and they all say the same. And I go, okay, let's do a little taste test and figure out how we can change this. So I told my supplier, please bring the worst mac and cheese you have. And by worst, I mean Kraft, like very traditional yellow mac, I don't know if you want to call it fake cheese, whatever the you want to say, right? Bring it in. Let's taste test. And we didn't say anything. We just put the white cheddar mac and cheese with the mac and cheese. And guess what won? 12-1. The shitty mac and cheese. So when you start looking at flavor profiles, right, and the things that you're putting out, you also have to be careful with like going a different route that when customers want. So what I say about the dishwasher is that he has a pulse in everything that's going on in the restaurant because he sees it. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, he's sitting in the kitchen, so he knows what the hell is going wrong with the kitchen. So for me, when I walk in, I like talking to the dishwasher because I know, and I'll get the right information of what's not working today. What item is sucking today? Why aren't we tasting it? Like, what happened to that? Here, if I see a spinach and if I see an artichoke and pepperoni dip go back to the kitchen, I'm asking, like, what table did that come from? And I'll go to the table and make them feel uncomfortable. Like asking them questions. What happened? What didn't you like? Why didn't you like it? Because that's when people really tell you the feedback.
Well, we're talking about the dishwasher. You're just talking about people. I think this is more of an art, but how do you get the right people?
You keep trying. This is a business that some people come in it to be for a short time because they need to make money. So maybe they're in it for 6 months, for a year, or maybe they do want to make this their official job for the rest of their life. I don't see a lot of that, because it's just such a tough industry. I do have some people that I call lifers, and that you have to protect. You have to protect them at all costs because there's not a lot of people that want to stay in this industry forever. Listen, you just have to create an ambience that's fun and that people enjoy. And what I say is, if somebody comes into our company, I want them to leave with more knowledge, with more know-how of the business, and not to necessarily hide anything. And I think a lot of people hold back in information and sharing stuff about the business they think that they're going to tell people secrets or whatever like that. I'm like, here's the recipe. Go figure it out. It's
tough enough.
It's tough enough. Yeah. It's not the recipe. It's not necessarily that. It's just people. And that's, to me, is the most important thing. And I say it I don't know if you can ask. I mean, you can ask my staff and all that. We treat them with respect. We try to do the best for them because we know that they're out there basically putting our name at every table. So that person is the most important person because it's not me all the time.
As a leader, what would you say your leadership style is? And I think I know, and you won't remember this, but the first time we met was at Cows and Cabs. And I was bouncing around different stalls, getting food and getting drinks. And most of the stalls were operated by just the staff of the restaurant. But you were out in front of the table, shaking hands, handing plates out, handing drinks out, asking people's feedback. So I'd imagine you're a lead from the front kind of guy. Is that accurate? Or
yeah, I mean, I'm not scared of doing any job here. If I need to wash dishes tonight, I don't care. I actually enjoy washing dishes, believe it or not, because I'll put my headphones in and I don't have to talk to anybody.
Therapeutic?
Yeah, it is therapeutic. I think I'm a different owner in the sense that I'm really involved, but I'm not a helicopter parent. I don't know if you understand that mix. I want to be involved, but I also want them to make their own decisions and their own mistakes. Right. As long as it doesn't cost me a lot of money.
Right.
Because I think it's important that people realize that you're empowered to make the decision or to do that.
Part of what we want to do is create a community around our clients, our friends, our family. And this is a great way to do it by just hearing these stories. And it evolved because we were just grabbing coffee, lunches, and dinners with people. We're like, damn, this guy's got a great story. Let's just put a camera in front of us, see what happens. And here we are. And you did the same thing, I feel like.
Yeah, people want to hear it. I mean, I interviewed Marcus Jordan, and that was a cool interview because you get to figure out how that family works out.
Right.
John Morgan was great.
I bet.
He was great, man. John has done a lot of interesting things, and obviously he's been very successful at doing his firm, and that's what's obviously made him the majority of his money. But now he has other opportunities that he's been in and invested in. He's done really well too. I think the storyline is very important because I think everybody thinks that it's this like this person got lucky or this person did this, and all of a sudden it's, you know, from night to day they're rich. You know, when I was young, I had that sort of mentality to a certain degree, right? Because you view people and you're like, man, that guy got real lucky. But the fact that I grew up in an entrepreneur family and I saw how hard my dad worked to create a company, you start to realize like it just takes a lot of hard work and a lot of years that people aren't noticing you. And then all of a sudden, you know, after all those years of work that you put in, people start noticing you.
Right.
Nobody understands that when I was 13 years old, I was getting up at 3 a.m. to go sell ice cream because my dad made me. You know what I mean? Those type of things create my work habits, have created whatever I am today. And to me, I think the background is the most interesting thing. Like, I have a buddy, JJ, you know, that when I had Lake Nona and he had a couple other stores, we lived through that time together. My Lake Nona store wasn't doing good. One of his stores wasn't doing good. And we talked all the time. That to us was the fun. We laugh now and we talk about, we call it our fun box days. You know, back then, there's this thing online that is called Fun Box that lends you money, you know, for cash flow basis.
Okay.
And we used to laugh about Funbox because we were like, oh yeah, we use Funbox all the time, you know? But it's just the way that business is. You know, people think that it's all fun and dandy, but sometimes you have cash flow issues. Sometimes you have to spend more money in places that you know, weren't expecting and stuff like that. And I think that's part of the fun of the business. Like just trying to figure that out.
We call this after hours because for two reasons. One, we typically do it either before or after the 9 to 5, but the realization is that all great businesses were built after hours. They weren't built from the normal 9 to 5 job that people think. And so what is your after hours moment where you were just in the thick of it, but it was kind of transformative into where you are now?
COVID.
I can imagine.
I mean, I had just gotten voted best barbecue in Orlando by Orlando Sentinel. My cash at that moment wasn't the best because I had Lake Nona and I had Floyd's, and it was just a weird year. 2019 was weird. I bought one of my investor at Mills. I bought them out that year, and I don't know. 19 reacted a very different way sales wise for a lot of people, not for only us. And then all of a sudden, we got voted. Sales are up. Everything's looking great, and they tell us to shut down our restaurants. Like, I'll tell you, I think you can ask anybody. I think I walked 5 miles around all these buildings that day just trying to figure out what the f am I going to do? Mm-hmm. Like, this could be the end, and it's not my decision. You know, it's just a decision based on whatever's going on in the market right now, and that's a tough one, man. That is, when they put you against a wall like that. Luckily, we made the decision to shut down one of the restaurants so that cash flow wouldn't hurt. And let's focus on one and try to get the sales out of that one. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a great move that we did. I drove all around the state. I went to Miami. I delivered food to Jacksonville. I went to every freaking town in Orlando. Anywhere I had to go, I would drive. There was one time that I went with 50 orders to Miami, and I spent there from 6 a.m. till 12 at night delivering. So those type of things, I think, along with the podcast, really got the company in a different place. And people saw that we were really putting in the effort to survive, man, like to survive during that time. Luckily, thank you, PPP. Thank you for all the government money.
Right.
It's allowed me now to expand and to do other things. So, yeah, it was a experience at the beginning, but it was kind of a blessing at the end. But it's tough. It's tough when you're going through it and you don't see the end, and you're like, how is this gonna go? Like, how are we gonna get out of this? So yeah, I would say COVID was my wake up moment.
When did you realize kind of this was the life for you with what you're doing now as a restaurateur? And where did you learn the resilience that it really takes that you're describing in all these stories to be in this business?
My dad fired me. Listen, I was a rich kid. Okay. I was 21 years old in Rollins. I had a house in Isleworth by myself. I was driving 4 cars. I mean, I had a Ferrari. At 21, I was living really well. And, you know, my dad had just sold his company. So he had boatloads of money and all that. So I thought that mentality was what's going to, you know, continue. And I don't lie. Like I say it, like when you're rich, like when you're coming from a great wealthy family, you think that your life is set. So when my dad fired me, that I went to work for him in the supermarkets, and he fired me that
back
day.
in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, in Puerto Rico in 2010, he fires me. I think that's when shit starts clicking.
Right.
You know, I had been working my ass off. My dad, I don't want to say that he's he made me work 20 hours a day. Okay. No vacation time, 7 days a week, because he needed to make me realize that, like, you have to work hard to be able to make it. What really kickstarted me was my dad firing me. I came back to the States. I couldn't find a job. Like, Walmart didn't give me a job. Publix. I mean, I went to an interview at Publix. The guy took out this humongous book with all these questions. I answered every question, and I said, "Sir, your job is very easy." Like, I mean, if you want to run a supermarket, come to Puerto Rico. We have 400 different suppliers that you have to negotiate. All these things that you have to do. You do computer ordering. You just mark it, and tomorrow it'll be here. That's not how this works. So I know that industry very well. And the guy's like, "I can hire you as a bagger." I go, "Oh, this is going to shit."
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be a bagger.
Right.
Then my dad offered me to go to Rollins to do my master's. And I f***ed that up, to be honest with you. I didn't want to do my master's. I thought that was a waste of time. So when I went back that December to Puerto Rico, he had given me a severance package. And he said, "Your severance package ends the 31st of December. So I hope you figure out what you're going to do, because I ain't sending no more money." I literally picked up my cell phone, called my friend, and said, "I think I'm going to open a food truck, man. You think you got some money you can lend me?" And my friend, which till this day, thank you, Nils, he called me and he said, "I'm going to sell my car.
Wow.
And I'm going to give you the money, and we're going to go into business together." And I said, "Sure." Yeah, sure. Like, you're going to give me that money and you're going to sell your car. That's bullshit.
Right.
So I just kept going and started looking for a truck and called some other friends to lend me some money. And sure as shit, Nils shows up a week later, sold his car, and gave me the money to open this.
Let's go.
Legend. Let's go.
And I'm like, "What are you doing, dude? Like, I don't know what the I'm doing." Or, I mean, the lucky thing about this is we have a food truck, so we have an asset that we can sell if this goes belly up. The many occurrences that happen in that truck have given me the capability to operate this company today, right? Because you learned a lot of things that you don't learn in the restaurant industry. For example, being outside in the heat, how people react to that, how people react to rain, how the business gets flustered over all those things, how people like to see lines outside. It's a visual thing.
So that was intentional. The lines, the Pig Floyd's line outside.
Yeah.
I just remember
Yes.
the Four
I'm an
Rivers
idiot.
lines
I
back
just
when Four Rivers was opening too. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a thing. That line, as you develop and you understand the restaurant business, you know, and I worked at Chipotle, believe it or not, before I opened Pig Floyd's, just to study them for 6 months. Okay. So I always started learning about throughput, but the line became a thing because I always said, and till this point, you could prove it to yourself. When people wait at a table, they think that they're waiting double the amount of time that they're waiting. So next time you go to a restaurant, turn on your phone whenever you put in your order. And then when the server comes with the food, think, how much did you really wait? And then look at your clock. and it's going to be different, right? You're going to think that you've been waiting for more time. So I always said, make them wait in line instead of waiting at the table, because if we put their food in the table in 4 minutes, they're going to go like, this place is fast. And that's what we do. We'll make you wait in the line because visually you're waiting in line. And if you're waiting, you're going to stay. But when you get to the table, you're going to get your food right away. So we did that trade-off. Not a lot of people or not a lot of companies do that. They all talk about throughput and moving the customer faster, but sometimes you just got to make them wait a little bit. Like, it's a psychological thing, I guess.
What do the next 5 years look like, not only for you, but kind of the Orlando food community in general? Because we're in the heart of Mills. And Jeff and I, when we moved back from college, we both lived
right
at
here.
the Gallery at Mills right here.
Oh, did you?
And since then, Pig Floyd's was around then,
Changed so
but
much.
it's changed
Yeah.
so much. So what
Just
does the
last-
next 5 years look like for
Yeah.
you all and this area?
And strictly my opinion, I think the amount of money that is coming into Orlando in terms of people moving in is changing the landscape and upping the game. All these restaurants with the Michelin star and the $300 meal and, all this was never here. You're seeing it and it's coming fast.
Just in the last couple of years.
Exactly. Not my style of food. And I tell all the owners of those restaurants, it's just not my style. But I think that has really upped the market and has really adapted the market into becoming a big city food scene. I think in the next 5 years, Orlando will keep developing that portion of the business. The issue that I see, though, is that real estate is getting out of whack, right? And when real estate gets out of whack, that's when you're starting to see like restaurants not being able to survive because rents, are coming up. So it's going to be an interesting market for the next 5 years. For us, I will keep expanding in Orlando to the point that I see that I don't see any more capacity. And then I'll move to another city. I'll probably go to Tampa next, so that we have some operational efficiencies. It's an hour and a half away. But then even that, going to Tampa now, the real estate is expensive and impossible. So we might have to go somewhere where, it's not a big city or a developed concept.
Right.
And that's tough, man. That's tough. So I want to create a pretty great base for the company financially to make sure that whatever move we make doesn't affect what we've built. And it has taken so long to build, man. Like my mentor, my different mentors, they also share the same thing. Like try to stay close to Orlando and then grow, exponentially close. Don't try to go from here to Atlanta or from here to Texas or from here to another big state, because it's very tough to replicate yourself and get on a plane when you have an emergency at a restaurant, 2 hours away.
Yeah.
We're just trying to build the base here and trying to, grow within the community and make sure that, we're really, really tight here, and then we'll make other moves. The money's getting tougher to find. I will tell you that. A lot of people are scared of the restaurant industry. They don't need to be scared because I think it's a great industry. It's just the amount of people that go into the industry and fail have really caused
a lot of war stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of war stories out there. So people that invest in restaurants sometimes lose their money and they're like, oh, that's the worst investment that I've ever done.
Right.
But some people are making a ton of money. So who knows? Like, I don't know what's the right or wrong.
All right.
I'm going through banking for growth and for some investment from outside. So we have to see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, I want to expand. I want to keep growing. I want to take the company to about $200 or $300 million in volume so that we can sell it. But that's always been my plan,
right?
Just grow in volume and be able to sell eventually and go into another project. I don't ever want to retire. I want to keep working.
Right.
I don't know what I'm gonna do when I get out of the restaurant industry. I'll probably be very fucking bored.
Well, I can tell your brain's always moving, and I know we have this where we're sitting right now, Pigzza, Pig Floyd's, potentially more Peggy Floyd's. What else?
Sugar Poppy. I have probably, man, I've had 3 or more concepts. The issue becomes though, like how you can come up with any concept. How viable is it within the brand and within the company, right? And does it equate to something that goes with what we're doing? You know, I like to build a Mexican restaurant with smoked meats. That'd be really cool. Nobody does that. They cook it in a different way, but imagine, you know, brisket fajitas. That'd be something that
sold.
Yeah, right. I like to do something like that, but it's more than just the idea that I have in my head, and to execute it's tough right now. I mean, this building took 2.5 years to open. Bubbaloo's in Lee Road, that's taken now a year and 7 months. It's just becoming tougher, man. What you're gonna see is a lot of changing concepts in restaurants that are already out there. That's what I've been hearing from most of the people in the industry. Like, we're not going out there to build restaurants. We're going out there to buy things that aren't working so that we can change the concept and keep it moving. Because the construction side is taking a long time, a long ass time.
Well, to this point, you all have done a phenomenal job executing, at least from our perspective. So
from your perspective, thank you. Yeah.
So congratulations to
you.
you all.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you having us in. Appreciate you coming on today. This has been awesome. We're probably going to stick around for lunch today.
Cool.
So thanks for everything.
I hope I didn't talk too much. Yeah.
No, it was awesome. It was awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, man.